Hey everybody, and welcome to our early comics review video. I'm Andy.
I'm Matt.
We're here with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and this is our longer show. We go over some of the biggest and best books that are coming out this week. You could either head into your local comic book store or our store, or head over to infinityflux.net and order them right now while supplies last. So don't miss out on any of the goodness. And we'll be going over some of these books and telling you a little bit about them and why you may be wanting to pick them up. So let's get into it, starting with probably the biggest thing right now in comics.
Yeah, so we are going to talk about Ultimate Spider-Man #2. The first issue was so good, sold out so fast,
Yeah.
and now the second issue is here this week. So this takes place about 2 to 3 weeks after the end of the first issue. I thought originally, like, oh, it's going to start with him being on top of the building. Like,
Yeah.
oh, this is weird, but no. The first issue takes place in January, and in the very beginning of this is February. And through Peter's monologue, we know it's been about 2 or 3 weeks ish between the two. So we do see Peter in a suit in this one. And we do see that he has been, through his monologue, we see that he has been practicing with his new abilities. He doesn't quite understand them yet. He talks about how he's sticky. He just refers to it as like, I'm sticky now, and I'm also really strong, and I don't really need as much sleep, and I can take a beating. Like, that's going to come in handy.
Yeah.
So he is, he's not great at them yet, but he's also not like a super klutz. Like he's managing very well.
It feels like it's that whole thing of like he was meant to be this.
Yeah.
It's like maybe it's coming a little bit easier for him because it's like he's fitting into that mold he was always intended to be.
Yeah. As the solicitations told us for this one, he does face off against his first supervillain. We're not going to spoil who that is. There are some preview pages out there that show you who it is. Just in case you haven't seen those, you don't want to know. I'm not going to tell you who it is. And I won't say how it goes either, but he actually does face off more than once with that supervillain. So there's all that stuff going on with Peter just getting used to these new powers and this new life that he has, basically. There's also a little scene with J. Jonah Jameson and Ben Parker where they are talking about how there was another attempt on Wilson Fisk's life, and that they need to be the ones to report that because the Daily Bugle definitely won't, because Wilson Fisk owns the Daily Bugle, and instead the Daily Bugle ran a picture of this weird guy in a costume, and they say that's a distraction. This is the real story, but the Bugle isn't going to print it, so we need to be the ones to do that. But they haven't quite got their news.
They don't have a name yet.
Yeah, they don't have like their news venture that they want to do. They're not up and running yet. So there's that whole thing going on. And we also get a scene with Wilson Fisk and another character that we saw during the Ultimate Invasion, Ultimate Universe, during that time. Wilson Fisk is talking to this other character. And what I liked about that scene is that they do acknowledge the sort of the status quo of this new world, how there was a secret cabal who was running things, and they put like lower management in place, Wilson Fisk being like lower management. So I like that they aren't forgetting that, because that's a pretty major plot.
It was brought up a bit more in Ultimate Black Panther #1 than it was Ultimate Spider-Man #1, but it's kind of showing, these are all part of the same universe where there's this bigger cabal, and it's like Wilson Fisk didn't necessarily get to where he is by himself.
That's right.
There was some strings being pulled along the way.
So I like that that plot point is still lingering in the background. It's still like in the background of these two, the Spider-Man and Black Panther. It's still there, but it's not like the major focus, but it is still a thing that's going to be addressed at some point. So there was all that going on. There's a great scene with Peter and his daughter May, and it just made me think we should have had scenes like this for the last couple decades in Marvel. So we're finally getting them now. It was super wonderful. He is such a good dad. Like, I love seeing him as a dad.
But it also feels like, he had Ben raising him, who's such a good father figure for him. You see a lot of that reflected in how he talks to his daughter and everything. And there's a lot of really interesting stuff that comes from that scene.
Yeah, and then there's another scene with just all of them as a family. Just a lot of great family stuff in this, which I think a lot of us have wanted for a long time. A lot of us has wanted Peter to have a family and not be such a loner. That was great back in the 70s and the 80s, you know, but I mean, it's time for him to grow up. So all the family stuff is great too. I will say that there was something about the first issue, and we talked about this, that I completely misinterpreted. And I know that now after reading this issue, I there was something at the end of the first issue that I just read it completely wrong, I guess. And then when I read this, I was like, oh, I was wrong about that. So it was interesting. I guess maybe, and I don't know if I'm the only person who felt that way, but I feel like after reading this, there's going to be maybe a couple more questions answered about family stuff. You know, I don't know,
Yeah.
but
Everyone's kind of status quo
yeah.
on things.
All that to say, this was awesome. The first issue was awesome. This issue was awesome. You know, they're 2 for 2 on Ultimate Spider-Man. They are giving us, you know, because a lot of this does feel familiar, but at the same time, we are getting stuff with Spider-Man that we've never seen before in any kind of Spider-Man story, in any kind of Spider-Verse story. Like we are getting some brand new Spider-Man stuff, but like I said, we've never seen it, but that also still feels normal and right and good for Spider-Man. So I just loved it. I loved everything about it.
I know this Spider-Man is quickly, even with only one issue and soon to be two, becoming people's favorite version of Spider-Man.
Yes.
Because it just feels like it feels natural, and I love, you know, this could easily have been like where he is now, like you said. Like this could have been 616 if he grew kind of at a natural pace.
Yeah, this is the Spider-Man we should have had since the 90s when Mary Jane had the baby that Norman then stole, that they never followed it. Like they should have just like this we could have had this for a long time now. So it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. So we just wanted to, you know, sing its praises. So we have our A cover right here. Now we have some variants that these are not on our website. But we wanted to go ahead and show them to you in case you know your store has them, or if you come in local, you know, you can grab these up off the shelf. But we have this Mark Bagley cover. Miles Morales is not part of this, you know.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit confused by this cover, but it still looks really cool.
Just homaging the previous Ultimate universe.
Yeah, you're right.
I wonder if this universe has a Miles Morales and that he could be the Ultimate Spider-Man.
Oh, that would be cool. That would be cool. We have this really
Love
cool.
This.
Oh shoot, I didn't get the artist for this one.
I think that's the Torque.
Okay.
Elizabeth Torque.
Face it, Tigress, you just hit the jackpot. So that's a really that's a really fun cover right there. And then we have this really cool. I love this 1 in 25 Daikruan variant that we're selling for $25. That is such a cool cover. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about. I mean, I could talk about it all day, but we'd have to spoil stuff, and it's just wonderful. It's such a good book.
Stay tuned for our deep dive podcast where we go into every single issue. I mean, for 4 hours.
I mean, we could. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to talk about. You know, with what does this mean? What does that mean? And like we were talking about, you know, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll come back to a lot of these things as we get more issues. And
Definitely,
yeah. But let's talk about some of my other favorite books coming out, which would be the Energon universe and our second issue of Cobra Commander. So you can see right there on the cover, you have Cobra Commander facing off against Buzzer of the Dreadnoughts. It's really hard for me not to say Dreadnoughts.
I do the same thing.
But it's Dreadnoughts.
Knox with a K, right?
Knox. Yeah. But I get Buzzer and Ripper confused. The two Dreadnoughts that are kind of the primary ones. But you can see that on the cover. So, getting into this, this follows up pretty close after the final panel of the last one, where you know that Cobra Commander's heading to... I think we just saw a swamp in the final panel of the first issue.
Right, yeah.
But he is heading off to the Florida Everglades, which is really fun because they even address in the first issue, Cobra Commander's not hiding what he looks like, anything. Like, he goes up to, like, swamp tours wearing what he is, and people are just looking at him. He's like, I don't care what people are saying about me. It's him and another someone who's going along this journey with him that we learn a little bit more about, but we still have a lot of questions about who this person is.
Yeah, they call him Protector, but I'm not really sure if that's somebody we know from like old school. I'm not sure.
It looks like he's got maybe some enhancements to him you see later on. But we do also get introduced to the Energon universe version of the Dreadnoughts. And let's say they are quite a bit scarier and more violent than any version you've probably ever seen.
Yeah, if you've read, the Transformers book from the Energon universe, you know that they don't shy away from killing people, right?
Yeah.
They don't shy away from showing blood splatters and things like that. So this whole Energon universe, even though it is the properties that we grew up with as kids, it's also they grew up with us,
Yeah.
So they're not like kiddie. I feel like we're not gonna. Whenever GI Joes flying jets, we're not going to get guys parachuting out of it with laser guns up. No, people are going to die,
Yeah.
and that's what this is like.
Yeah, and I looked on the back, and this is rated teen. I'm surprised it's not even teen plus, just because there's a few moments of like you see what the Dreadnoks are doing to some other people.
Oh yeah, that one full page when
There's
he goes, yeah,
and stuff, and you're like, oh, this is like Buzzer uses his chainsaw for, as I said in the previous one, other things and cutting out trees.
yeah,
And like it's pretty brutal, but I feel like that makes it scarier when people are confronting them.
right,
That's like, oh, these guys are actually
yeah, they mean business, yeah,
So Cobra Commander seeking the Energon that is, he's got kind of a tracker that knows it's somewhere in the Everglades and he's going into it. But of course, he's going to run into the Dreadnoks. And I don't want to give away too much of what happens, but there is kind of you're on our property and we're not happy about that showdown between Cobra Commander and them. That's really cool, with another kind of little surprise person that pulls in there that, you could probably guess if you've seen some of the covers and stuff, but it's really cool. The other, I don't want to give away too much, but I feel like what we were talking about earlier, we learn a bit more about what Energon is in the Energon universe. We know it's like it's from Transformers or everything, but like what is it to non-Transformers? How is it utilized? All of that kind of thing. We get more hints about that. I think maybe this issue and the issue, like maybe 3 issues, are going to be kind of set in right here if we go by the covers. And let's say there's some characters I really want to see in this that are would be very fitting to appear in certain parts of this, but it's got a great great cliffhanger at the end of this issue that is just so much fun. It's like there's not a whole lot to say about storyline in this issue because it's pretty straightforward, but it's so much fun along the way. The dialogue, the interactions. There's a kid that like kind of makes a face at Cobra Commander, and just what he does is like, oh, this is if he had his way, Cobra Commander, no one would look at him
this
in
isn't
a bad way.
this isn't goofy Saturday morning Cobra Commander. This guy, he'll hurt you.
Yeah, he almost feels like the Killing Joke version with the wide brimmed hat, the trench coat of the Joker, but he's Cobra Commander. But this is a great issue, and just once again building those blocks for the Energon universe that at some point we're gonna have such a rich cast and characters that I feel like are getting a lot of airtime to really like, for people who are either really familiar with the characters or not at all, you're gonna know who these people are, what they're about, kind of where their stance is, whose side they're on. That's gonna be great. So everyone go out and pick up Cobra Commander #2, and we will have coming up after this variant another chance to get Cobra Commander #1. So we've got this awesome Ortiz variant for Cobra Commander #2. And then we've got some other printing. So we have the second printing of Cobra Commander #1 right here. This is the Howard cover with Cobra Commander. But you also have your Globulus cover, which is cool because you can see his face, because in the first issue he was kind of in shadow for most of it. But then we do have some variants for this issue. So you've got this, which was one of the teaser images, I believe, before issue 1 came out, of like who the team is. And then we also have this 1 in 50 Nick Dragotta variant, which is super cool.
That's for #2, right?
Yeah, this is for #2.
Okay. Those last 3 were second prints for #1.
Right, yeah.
And then these are the...
I got them a little out of order.
Yeah, no, it's all right.
We're selling this for $55. Really cool. Then we have this Akko variant. that is a 1 in 25. We're selling for $25.
Well, that looks like the action figure card. I
Yeah,
love that.
with the explosion on it. And then we have a 1 in 10 Burnham variant, which this it comes pretty close to happening. This
Yep.
scene right here.
Yeah, that's very similar to some of what happens in the book right there.
And we are selling that one for
Yeah.
$15.
It's a great week because if you missed out on Cobra Commander #1, you can catch up and get the new issue on the same day on Wednesday this week.
Some good planning.
Yeah, good job on Image's part there. All right, so next for me is the Six Fingers #1. So a couple weeks ago, we had a book called The One Hand. It was the first issue. It was about this detective investigating this murder that he, was kind of a big part of his career. He was about to retire, but then a murder happened, and he went back to investigate. This is kind of the companion book to that. So this is its own separate series, but it's going to run parallel to that book because whereas that book focused on the detective investigating the murder, this book follows the guy who actually committed the murder. But I don't know if he maybe doesn't know that he did it, or if he remembers he did it, he doesn't know why, that kind of thing. So it's not just straightforward. This book follows a serial killer. There's more to it than just that. So it's about a guy named he's an archaeology student. His name is Johann Vale, and he also works at this large power plant. And one day when he was at work at the power plant, these huge industrial batteries just start leaking toxic acid all over the factory. And he knows how to fix it. He's like, oh, the ventilation thing down there needs to be unclogged or whatever, and they'll all drain out. So he puts on this hazmat suit and goes trudging through this toxic battery acid, and he fixes the thing. But even though he has the suit on, he's still exposed to I think they say it's straight up radiation. I'm not sure. And he ends up growing a tiny sixth finger
Oh,
on his
gosh.
right hand, which, if you read The One Hand, there was a handprint on the wall that had a tiny little nub on there, and the detective is like, I think this guy has six fingers. Well, we see. I'm not spoiling anything because this is the plot of the book, right? So we see how he gets his sixth finger. It's not like a whole extra digit. It's just a little bit. Um, so one night he does remember though that because he talks about how when he's writing his like dissertation or whatever for his for his classes or whatever, he kind of zones out. He likes to go for walks to clear his head and that kind of thing. And one night he remembers that he went on a walk when he was doing some schoolwork to clear his head. Um, and he retraces his steps of the walk he went on, and he winds up at the crime scene from The One Hand #1. So you can see how they're all like gelling together. Um, Now there's still more to come. He doesn't know. Like I said, he's not a straight up serial killer. He doesn't quite. He kind of, like I said, he sort of zones out when he goes on these walks. So I don't know why. I mean, that's what the series is about. Is why did he do this? Why did he kill this guy? What's going on with him? That's what the point of this series is. But it's just really cool how we've got these two books that are. Well, I was going to say they're similar in style, but the artwork in this is quite a bit different from the other one. This is a little bit more clean line comic book, whereas the other one was a little bit more muddy, that kind of thing. But it's cool that we have these two separate books running alongside each other that follow two different aspects of this big murder that happened. So if you really like The One Hand and you plan on getting that, I highly recommend you get this as well so that you get the complete picture. Although I do think you could probably read both of these by themselves if you only want to get one, but I would recommend getting them both because that gives you a bigger part of the story. So there's our A cover right there, and I think we were shorted on some of our books this week from Lunar, the distributor of Image. So we don't have any variants to show you right now. We'll probably have them on, or hopefully have them this week. But right now, we just have this one A cover to show.
It's such a ambitious idea.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
And what's interesting is it's not this. Ron V wrote the other one, and Dan Waters writes this. And so it's not even the same writer.
You think they even know?
Whoa, what have they done? It's like, wait, you're writing it. Yeah, you're writing it. It's like the Spider-Man pointing at the other Spider-Man meme. But it's just cool to have two different writers writing two different books, but are about the same thing. It's really cool.
Different angles.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, I've got another pretty big one this week. This is Edge of the Spider-Verse #1. So I can't remember how many volumes of Edge of the Spider-Verse we've had. Maybe 3.
I think that's the third one. I'm pretty sure.
So, the first Edge of the Spider-Verse, you had, I think, pretty much each individual issue had one story in it, but after a while they started doing kind of the anthology style, and that is what this is. And, part of us was like, this is weird, like, in the previous one, it was the end of the Spider-Verse.
Right.
And we were like, well, that must be the end of the Spider-Verse, but never the end. They even address that in a letters page at the end. Nothing ever ends in comics.
That's right.
So we get into this one. We've got 3 stories in here. 2 main ones and kind of a little bit of a surprise third story. It tells you in the beginning and it tells you each of the stories and stuff, but kind of what it is a surprise. So in this one, we have our first story by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing with art by Travel Foreman. And this is about Weapon 8. That's who you see on the cover here. You can see him kind of hunting in the snowy wilderness. It's because it's related to the program is called the Weapon X program, right?
Yeah.
But there's only one. But Wolverine is Weapon X, and there's a lot of weapons before Weapon X.
Oh, or isn't it Weapon H?
Yes, Weapon H. I could not remember
Something
what
like
the name of the organization is called. So, but everyone refers to it as like Weapon X and stuff. But this facility that created Wolverine, we find it the Wolverine has escaped as Weapon X, but in this universe, there's Weapon 8, who is this kind of arachnid experiment that they had done.
When Wolverine escapes, does he have the helmet on with the suspenders? So he looks like traditional.
Yeah, he's got the little like pouch or a little like computery thing on his waist.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, he's very like
a traditional Weapon X.
Yeah, this feels like this takes place like when he originally escapes. But there's this version of Weapon 8 in this that's kind of like he follows the rules. He's kind of the lapdog of the Weapon H facility, and they send him out to go and stop Weapon X at this time. You'll have to see what happens, but let's just say there's this is more about this character and not Wolverine.
Sure.
But there's something that Weapon X, a little nugget that he leaves with Weapon 8, and basically says, "Why are you working for these people? Like, you don't even know what your real name is." And so this kind of puts something in Weapon 8's head where he's like, that is true. I don't know. It would be kind of nice to know what my real name is, because he's been brainwashed and everything that basically happened to Wolverine. And he goes back and asks, and they're like, "We're not telling you that. It would mess up your mission and everything." But this starts sticking with him where he may not cooperate till they tell him his name, even when they send him after Weapon 1. And I won't give away who that is, but, there's got some twists and turns in it that are very interesting. I thought that was an interesting story. The character design was like, oh, it looks a lot like Cyclops. This has nothing to do with Cyclops.
That's what I thought.
Summers. Yeah. I guess it's a very like X-Men colors.
It's because of the blue and the yellow, and then he has like red something on his eyes, and I was like, oh, that's a Spider-Man version of Cyclops. Yeah. But nope, not it at all.
Yeah, so it's more Spider-Man related, but there's still some fun stuff. The second story in it is about Spider Bite by Nyla Magruder, and the art's by Eric Gapster. I really like this one. If you don't know, Spider-Bite appeared in the previous Edge of the Spider-Verse series, and she is like the Spider-Woman of the internet. She's really tech-savvy. She almost reminds you of Ironheart. Kind of that, like, I'm so good at technology, I can kind of get it to work for me. Like, she's young, and she's got like a Skype class she's taking, and they have to do a quiz, and she's got like a little like computer person in her suit, and she's like, "Will you do that quiz for me? I've got to go stop these criminals on the internet." And what's really interesting is the way the internet is like portrayed is kind of like not like Tron, but it's kind of a futuristic looking thing. And there is, I guess it's a casino website that she goes to, but of course it looks like a casino that is like siphoning people's money out. And so she goes there to stop the criminal that's there. But the criminal, the kind of the head honcho of this thing, enlists one of Spider-Man's villains to fight her, who looks like what they do outside of it. But she even says, like, I don't know if you're really you outside of the internet. And they're like, I am. I just keep my appearance the same. It's really weird.
So unless you're getting catfished, maybe,
Yeah, but it's really weird. It's like, how did he get in here? And how is he smart enough to do that and everything? But that's a really interesting story. It's a really fun character, and I like the art in that one a lot. But the third story is actually a Spider-Man 2099 story, where he is facing off against the Hulk of 2099, which I always love seeing the weird, like savage.
Yeah, it's got the long hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he gets pulled out of his time, and he's confronted by everyone's current favorite movie hero, Madam Web, where she has a job for him that may lead to a bigger story that's coming along down the lines, which may be not even in this miniseries, but something afterwards. I feel like that's the through line of this series. So
At the end of that story, it does say to be continued in Web of Spider-Man,
yeah,
which we talked about last week on Comics from the Future, which is coming in the next few weeks. I think that it's the one shot that gives you little previews of some of the Spider-Man related stories coming throughout the rest of the year. So more on that.
yeah, and then they said like you'll see part of this story again back in Edge of the Spider Verse, so it looks
Mm.
like it's kind of weaving through some of these titles. But overall, I thought it was really good. It was, like with any of them, your mileage will vary. I like this story. I didn't like this
Yeah.
story. I thought this first issue, all the stories were pretty fun. You know, some people maybe a little Spider Verse overload, too many Spider
A
people.
lot of Spider people.
So this isn't like one you have to read. It's got the first appearance of Weapon 8 in it, which is really cool, and he's got a cool design. So read it if you're a big like Spider-Verse fan, but don't feel like you have to read it if you're just reading maybe Amazing Spider-Man or anything like this, because this will be a
Yeah.
whole separate thing. So we got some variants. We got this really nice Derek Chew variant, which none of those characters appear in this, but it's still very cool. That's your classic original Spider Verse team plus Miles, so that's cool. We've got this Scotty Young cover,
Yeah.
which is really fun.
Can't have a number one without a Scotty Young cover.
Also, none of these characters appear in this, but still really like it. This one's really cool.
Yeah.
This is the Chris Allen Spider Punk variant
I
for the
love that
Stormbreaker.
so much.
Are all these connecting at all? I know they all have the
Uh,
roughly the similar backgrounds.
I don't think so.
I don't think so, but they're still really cool.
Normally, like the solicitation say like connecting variant or whatever,
Yeah.
but I don't think this one did.
And then we have a surprise one per store variant that we are selling for $50. So
Surprise! It's Spider-Man.
surprise the Spider-Man. You could never guess, but really cool in there.
All right, so next for me is the first issue of Alien: Black, White, and Blood. And this is just like all of the other Black, White, and Blood, or Black, White, and Red, or Black, White, and whatever books that you're used to. It's all black and white with, but they also use red for blood or for backgrounds. Although I will say that there's some green in this. They cheated a little bit, but I wonder if it's like because the aliens have green blood, so maybe they're
Yeah.
trying to get that color palette. But yeah, just like all the other ones, this is 3 different stories. It's an anthology book. All the stories are self-contained. Although I will say the first story, it's called Utopia. It's going to continue into the next issue. I'm not sure how many parts it's going to be, but at the end it says to be continued. Whereas the other 2 stories end just in this book.
I think they've been recently doing like a through story.
Yeah.
Through the whole series, one story through all the series.
Yeah.
And then the other ones are
a lot of
one-shots.
anthology books are like that, like Batman Brave and the Bold at DC, does that same kind of thing. But first story is called Utopia. It's written by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing, so
That's your go-to
team.
team.
That's your guys right there. And the art's by Michael Dowling. It's about this large ship named Forward, and it's kind of like a classic alien story. Like you got this large ship detects a smaller ship that's sort of it's floating adrift in space. It detects one lone survivor, one life form on that smaller ship. So they're like, oh, we got to go save that person. And they dock with that ship. They cut the doors open, but surprise, it's a xenomorph. And, hilarity ensues. There's a story called The Hunt. I thought this one was cool. Written by Stephanie Phillips. The art is by Marcelo Ferreira. So it looked really cool. It's about 4 people who pay to hunt xenomorphs in a controlled environment. But, with xenomorphs, nothing is really controlled. So, you might expect, you might know how that could turn out. And then there is a book called Maternal Instinct, written by Ryan Cady, and the art is by Dev Malia Pramanik. And it's so basically, traditional alien story. A xenomorph has decimated the entire crew of a ship. However, this is a little different because there is one survivor, and it's a young boy.
Mm.
And the ship's mother system, the system, sort of helps him escape, and actually sort of acts like a mother figure to where the point where he calls it mama, and it says, you got to be careful. Go now stop, now wait. I'm going to close the door, then you go. So the mother system sort of helps this boy escape a xenomorph, and when he's the last survivor of on the ship. So just some really good Alien stories. If you're a big fan of Alien, I think you'll like this. And yeah, I mean it's cool. Like, it's cool to have an Alien black, white, and blood.
Yeah.
There's so many black, white, and blood books. So there is the A cover right there, and then we have this really cool Elena Casagrande variant with a big old xenomorph. Yep, those are fun.
And following up with that, this is an Alien Predator week.
They should fight. They should just.
They would never fight.
Nope.
They'd never cross paths. We have Predator: The Last Hunt. And it makes me wonder with that title. So this is kind of related to the previous Predator series from Marvel that started, a few years ago, and following the character Theta, who her parents were killed by a specific predator, and now she's kind of made her entire life's goal is to hunt down and kill this one predator.
So she hasn't found that predator yet?
Nope.
Okay.
And it's been 27 years.
Wow.
But through all these series, like, there's been different kind of adventures, but she's been present for them, and they kind of, one was kind of like Predators, or the Predator that was like, oh, it's one of their hunting grounds. She was a part of one of those.
Oh yeah.
She learned in that one that the Predators had been like freezing people throughout time, and then they let them out, and they all kind of like, they hunt different people from 100 years ago, from the 70s, for everything, because they all have them frozen. And this is a continuation of all of that, but I still think if you haven't read those, you could pick it up. It's still pretty accessible. So this is written by Ed Brisson, and the art is by Francesco Manna, who I really, really like the art in this. It's funny to say I like it because it feels comic booky, but sometimes Predator and Alien books go either like super hyper realistic, or they have kind of a scratchier style or whatever. This one, like, when you see some of the Predators fight, it almost looks like you're reading a Wolverine comic.
Well, that's exactly what I felt about the second story in that Alien book from Marcelo Ferreira. That I felt the same when I turned the page. I was like, wait, that person looks like a comic book character, not a character from a real life movie that they're adapting. It feels like a comic book. Yeah.
And I really like that about this one. So you've got Theta now. It's 27 years later. Her and Paolo, who she kind of teamed up with the previous one, they are on their ship and everything. Theta now wears kind of like an augmented predator suit herself, which is really cool. And they find there's a distress call that comes out from a planet that they head to, only to discover that this planet, and specifically this ship that is sitting off this distress beacon, could be the key to finding maybe even the Predator's homeworld, where they could go and stop them once and for all. But they do still have to investigate, because they do find something on the ship that explains a lot of what they've been experiencing through a bunch of these miniseries. And the last thing I'll say is there's a big surprise at the end when, on this desolate planet that they're fearing for predators, there's a knock on their spaceship door, and you'll have to read to find out who's knocking on the door, because it is a really fun surprise. So
yeah, and I didn't know. You showed me, and I wouldn't have known who that was. But if you've read Predator comics in the past, is that too much of a spoiler?
No, I'm not saying if for longtime Predator readers will have a good time with it. And also, I think it's spoiled on the cover of number 2.
Oh, okay.
But I hadn't seen that cover, and so when I saw this, I was surprised, and I was like, "Oh, whoa, that's really cool." So I really like this Predator: The Last Hunt. It really starts off strong. There's also a kind of a person in the beginning wearing Predator armor. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be who we see later, or if it's a new character, but they look really, really cool. And I want to learn more about that character. So
do we know that it's a human?
It looks to be a human.
Okay.
You can see some skin, and it doesn't look like Predator skin with the texture on it and everything. So this is our A cover. Let's see, yeah, I think that might be the predator she's hunting. Even though the one she's hunting, like when his helmet's off, he only has like one tusk.
Oh, because she ripped the other one out, or
That's when
she
when you
broke it off
saw
or
it that
something.
it was
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, that's its distinguishing marks. And then we have the Paco Medina variant. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool how Marvel's been doing this new, and they've done it with Alien too. There's been a few different miniseries that continue on the story,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, Predators, they've done a good job with this. I like it. All right, so next for me is a new book called Cemetery Kids Don't Die. This is from Oni. I think it's like a 5-issue miniseries. I don't quite remember. Written by Zach Thompson, the artist by Daniel Irizarry. And this is pretty cool. This is about four friends, and they play this MMO type game on a game console called the Dreamwave, which you actually operate while you're asleep. And there are, I guess, like safeguards or something built into the console where it tells you when your it has something to do with like REM sleep and all that stuff, and it
Yeah.
tells you like, oh, you're coming out of REM sleep, so
Does it save your game before you wake up? 'Cause
on
that would be
yeah.
annoying.
The kids go into the game and they talk about like we have to do this before the timer runs out, so it doesn't let you play all the time because you'd be asleep all the time. So there's like 8 hours. I think there's like an 8 hour timer on it, and then they wake up and the thing powers off, and then it says they look at an app and says, oh yeah, it says that I can play again in 10 hours or something like that. Um, So I like when stuff like that kind of gets thought out. So one of the friends' name is Pick, Pik, and there's something going on with Pick, and he kind of he makes an interesting like quandary. He says I wonder if a part of me fades like in real life every time my character dies in the game. He's just acting a little bit off. We see at the very beginning of the book they're actually in the game with their characters fighting a monster, and his character dies, like gets his head cut off in the game. And it's not a big deal. Like it's just like World of Warcraft or something. When your character dies, you can get back to your body, right? But he does say, I wonder if a part of me fades in the real world when my character dies in the game. Well, one night the other three, they're playing the game and then they're done, and the other three friends wake up, but they are horrified, and it looks pretty weird. They're horrified to find that Pick never woke up from the game and is actually hanging upside down, and his head's all deformed because the console doesn't look like a box, like an Xbox. It
Yeah.
almost looks like this little alien thing that like sort of wraps around your head like
That sounds
this.
safe.
Yeah, it looks like it has like texture. It almost looks organic, is what I'm
Yeah.
saying. It's not just a box. So Pick is like hanging upside down, and it looks like that thing has grafted itself onto his face, and his head's gotten all swollen. And they're horrified, so they rush him off to the hospital. And the doctors are able to remove the console from his head, but they say he's actually in a coma. And when one of the friends looks at the app that sort of accompanies the game, it says that Pick is still inside the game. And so that's what the series is about, is they are going to have to figure out how to get him out. What's going on? Why is he acting weird? Why did his console like malfunction or whatever it is? We don't know yet. But it was still really cool. And I just like the concept of, oh, you play it while you're asleep. So, and you only have a certain amount of time to play it every night. So it's just really cool, kind of a unique new book. There's lots of manga and anime about kids getting trapped in games, but this is a little bit different than that. So it was really fun. So there's our A cover right there, and we do not have any variants for
I
this.
think it had a
Yeah, I don't think
variant.
it had any variants, so that is it right there.
Very interesting concept.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, I have our new book from Distillery. This is Blasphemous. It's like Blasphemous,
Blasphemous.
but with famous on it.
Yeah.
So this is written, drawn, and colored by Mirka Andolfo, which, I mean, she is a more than a triple threat, but she does all of these things at a very high level that most people would dream of doing one of them. This is a beautiful book. So this is a little complicated to explain because this is a pretty long book. There's a lot of characters and a lot of dialogue. But that's kind of Mirka Andolfo's. She doesn't tend to do a lot of like action and that kind of thing. She
Yeah.
does very character-driven stories.
I mean, think of like she did like Sweet Paprika,
Sweet
which was that kind of thing.
A natural, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So in this, it does kind of have a cold open that we'll just say our main character, whose name is
What was it again? Clelia. Yeah, I think.
Clelia, Clelia, Clelia. Um, let's just say she appears to be a nun, and she makes some kind of deal. I don't want to give away too much, but the story jumps 200 years in the future, and they kind of explain through a news story that's like, if you've been living on Mars, you might not know this, but let's just inform people anyways. Which is a way to kind of get you caught up with the what's going on. So, uh, in kind of recent history at this point, this is roughly modern day. Um, the church split into uh kind of similar to like denominations, but more of like the splitting between like Protestant and Catholic and stuff like that, where one side actually got really into like celebrities and entertainment and social media, and that side of the church really took off. Like, so now everybody is goes to church and everybody is part of something, but it's because it's like so tied in with
Mhm.
entertainment. And there's the equivalent of like every social media but kind of like church related. And the other side of the church was the more traditional side. Well, you have this character who looks a lot like the character from the beginning, who is like the biggest celebrity ever. But she's like this weird mix between like a religious figure, almost like a saint, like if a saint was a like pop star.
Yeah.
And that's what you get here, where our main character that's in here, like she just released a new album, but her albums are like Christian albums, but like super super popular and everything. It's a very interesting take on the whole thing. Um, but she may have, I'm gonna say a dark side, but she has a secret that really affects um, her private life. Her
Mhm.
public life, she's big and famous and everything, but she has a very hard private life where even like her producer, her manager is also like a pope and everything. It's a very interesting like amalgamation of ideas. But it seems like maybe she made a deal early on for something that seemed really good, but maybe is not so good after all.
Be
Uh,
careful what you wish for, kind of
yeah, a
thing.
little
Yeah.
bit. Now, it's not completely clear all the details. This is a book I would need to read again to really get all of the characters and the subtlety of a lot of things. But if you are someone who likes more of the indie comics, but not indie as in like weird, like this feels like it could be an Image comic. It could feel
Yeah.
like it could be any of Mirka and Dolpho's
Yeah.
comics. It's right down her line of stories. You will really, really like this. Like all the Distillery, I believe it's 3 issues long.
Yeah.
I think all of theirs are pretty much that. And you are getting a lot of story. Like this will take you a while to read, but you'll really enjoy it if it sounds like something you would be interested in. It's that done very, very well. So we've got a few extra covers here. First off, we have, of course, a Mirka and Dolfo cover. We have a Art Germ cover.
Very nice.
Very nice. We also have a Stefan Sajic 1 in 10 cover that we're selling for $15. I believe this is a $9.99 book. Like, I think all the
I think
Distillery
they all are.
books.
Yeah.
And then we have a 1 in 25 Mizuno variant, which is really hot right now. We're selling for $75.
And we do want to mention we've done it before with all the other distillery books. If you want these books, get them now because allegedly they will be available digitally in some way at some point in the future. But they're not going to do reprints. They're not going to do trade paperbacks.
They're not
So
doing collected
right.
editions.
So this or I don't even know. Like they haven't even said recently like how the digital thing's going to work. So for right now, if you want it, this is the only way to get it is to buy them when they come out,
Yep.
because there's not going to be another way to do it later. Like if they sell out, that's it. So, all right. So Next for me, I'm super excited because this was so good.
I know
Wonder.
this is your double header
Yeah,
right
this is
here.
my yeah. So Wonder Woman number 6. Holy cow, guys! So this is the best issue yet, hands down. If you were, maybe you bought the first 5 issues and you're like, it's not really doing it for me. I'm gonna hop off. I'm not gonna buy the next issue. Buy this issue if you've been reading it. This is so good. The entire issue is Wonder Woman fighting Giganta, Silver Swan, and Grail, the Darkseid's daughter
Wow.
Grail. But while she's doing that, we're actually there's not a lot of dialogue from them. It's more the Sovereign narrating to Trinity, because that's what this whole series has been so far. Is Sovereign narrating, giving these tales of her mom to Trinity. But the fights are crazy, and Wonder Woman going up against Giganta. There is some crazy stuff in that.
Some kind of like I feel like when you take a character like Gigantic, you're like, but how would it really be fighting
Yeah.
someone like this?
Mhm.
You see that.
This is it, yeah. There are some big superhuman feats in this. I mean, there's not a whole lot to say because it's all just basically a huge fight. Wonder Woman really gets, put to the test. She really tests her limits. It's so good. And there's a really funny backup story. This may be my favorite backup story so far with John and Damien and Lizzie. John and Damien babysitting Lizzie, trying to get her to sleep. It's hilarious. It's so good. And I will say that this is the end of this first story arc, but definitely not the end of this larger story they're telling with the Sovereign and all that stuff. And the outlawing of Amazons and that kind of thing. That is still not done, but it's like the first chapter of that larger story is finished with this book. I recommend this if you've been reading Wonder Woman. It is so good. I loved it to pieces. It's awesome.
This thing that it's interesting with comics when they're told really well. It's when you have really good artists and stuff. When you have fight scenes, when it's not just trading blows.
Yeah.
When you can create a narrative through the fight scene and the action.
Yeah.
Where it has beats and it has geography, where their fight moves from here to here, or they use environments in a certain way. Where you're like, you could only have done that here.
Yeah.
Makes a very masterful told comic fight scene.
Yeah, and it's not like they threw all these bad guys at her. No, it's like she fights Giganta, but then Silver Swan comes in, but Sovereign is narrating saying, and so then we decided to send in Silver Swan because we knew that this and this would happen, and like it was all planned, all pre-calculated and all that stuff. Just such an amazing like the whole series has been good, but this is the best issue yet of an already incredible series. It's so good. So there is our A cover right there, and we have a few variants as well. We have this Nicholas Draper Ivy. There's a bunch of these. This is the Black History Month variant featuring Queen Nubia. That looks really good. We have got this Julian Totino Tedesco variant. Cool. Yeah, that one's super cool too. And then we have this Jeff Spokes variant. Or is this? Yeah, Jeff Spokes. Yeah. Yep. Very nice there. And then we have this 1 in 25 Wada variant that we're selling for $25, and that looks good too. Yeah, I love everything about this issue. I read it, and I text you a couple pictures from inside. I was like, holy cow, this is so cool.
It's very, God level fighting.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Which I feel like is really cool when you're doing Wonder Woman and you really see her strength and everything.
Yep.
Okay, next up for me, we have Star Wars issue 43. So I still pretty much hold to my prediction. This hasn't been confirmed anywhere or anything, but I think most of the Star Wars books are going to be wrapping up close to issue 50. It just naturally feels that, and this is the way this issue ends definitely feels that way as well. So this wraps up the story where Luke essentially has a red kyber crystal. And it's a subtle way of him. So he wants to know if he can purify this crystal. You get a red crystal when you have a regular kyber crystal, and someone with the dark side pours their rage and their hate into it, and basically it's called bleeding the crystal, and it turns it red. Luke wants to know, can I save it and tear it back? And really what he's saying is, when I confront Vader, which I know I will I be able to turn him back? He wants to know there's a way you can pull back from the dark side.
So it's almost like he's using the kyber crystal as a test run to see if he can pull.
Test run, but I don't even know if he 100% knows he's doing that. It's more of a mental thing of like, I just need to know that something that has gone dark can be turned light again.
Yeah, that's very
And
cool.
so he does this with this crystal, and he meets, and this is all in previous issue, a kind of a woman who can help him almost like dream walk, but it all has to do with like force visions and everything into this crystal, because he had seen before there's a Sith Lord in there, but he didn't really understand it. And now he's trapped inside of there, and this whole issue is basically his confrontation with this Sith you see on the cover, who what is not given a name. I know Charles Soule said this character does have a name, but we don't learn it. I don't know if we'll ever learn it.
He looks really cool. I like that design.
So what's interesting in this one is
Wait, is that a male or a female?
I actually think it's female. It's very ambiguous.
Okay.
I feel like the whole thing is meant to be very
Yeah,
ambiguous.
that's a cool design though. I like that.
It's
I like
very
the color
cool.
scheme.
So what happens there is Luke is trapped in there, and this Sith Lord is basically um, like you've tried this before. Like Luke can't tell that he's in maybe a cycle of doing the same thing over and over inside of there. And the Sith Lord's like, but you should like give into your pain because through your pain we could be powerful. I've been through a lot, and I can tell you've been through a lot. Just look at your hand, and Luke looks down, and his hand's gone like it was from Empire, and it's just a stub there and everything. And he's really like teasing Luke to like give into your pain. This character, the Sith Lord's really into that side of the dark side.
Because this whole series takes place after Empire, right?
After Empire,
I
but
hate that I
before
don't know
Return of
that.
the Jedi.
Yeah, okay. I hate that I don't know that.
But this is really interesting because it's kind of Luke against the Sith Lord, but not in combat, in kind of not even wits, but kind of in willpower. And we do see some stuff where Luke does draw his lightsaber at one point, and it is green. And at this point, Luke has not made his green lightsaber that he'll have in Return of the Jedi. But this does wrap up this storyline in a very interesting way, where maybe it is time for Luke to uh, finally be at a place where he can confront Vader and build his new lightsaber. There's a really nice moment here too where he connects with kind of his father on maybe not like a spiritual level, but he envisions him as he was before Darth Vader, and that's really really cool. A lot of Anakin fans will really like that. So it's a very kind of ethereal story arc for Star Wars, but it really ties together nicely, and I'm excited to see where it goes. But there cannot be a whole lot before we get to Return of the Jedi. So there is our issue 43A cover. We also have the Black History Month variant by Ken Lashley. Super cool. And then we have the Star Wars Rebels 10th anniversary variant with Zeb and Kanan. And lastly, we have this 1 in 25 Annie Wu variant that we're selling for $20.
All right, so next for me is Batman Superman World's Finest number 24. And holy cow, this one was awesome as well. Like, after I read Wonder Woman, I was like, well, that's my favorite DC book of the week. And then I read this, I was like, oh, shoot, well, that was good too. I don't know which one's better. So, this is the finale to the Return to Kingdom Come storyline they've been telling over the last, I think, 5 issues or so. So it all comes down to this. There is an awesome fight with all the heroes and Darkseid, and you've got Dan Moore on art drawing a multi-hero fight with Darkseid. Holy cow, it looks so good. So there's that going on. David, who is Gog, and we, no spoilers there. I mean, that's what this storyline has been about. David has become Gog that we know from Kingdom Come. So he does something in the battle that none of the heroes approve of, and they all sort of get mad at him. And but that has some interesting ramifications for things to come. I think it's going to actually have some pretty big ramifications for the original Kingdom Come story from back in the mid '90s, and I think people might be talking about this one. Or maybe I'm reading too much into it. I'm not too sure, but I feel like this has some big ramifications for the original Kingdom Come story. And if it does, Mark Waid is the writer of both, so it's really cool to see him.
Yeah.
Revisit his story and maybe tweak it a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, he has that right.
Yeah, he has the right to do that. Yeah. So unless I'm misinterpreting things, I feel like people might talk about this one, and I wonder if we might see more of this storyline after it's over at some
It's
point in the
got
future.
a final page that's not ambiguous, but it's kind of like this could be the last time we see this, or we could see this again.
Absolutely, it could go either way. This, yeah, yeah, that last page is like, oh, that's really cool. Put a bow on it, it's done. Or, oh, they could do a lot more with this. I
Yeah.
don't know, but it was just such a good issue. The art was so good. Dark Side is always fun to see. You've got two Supermen, two Batman, a bunch of other heroes, all just, oh, it's super great. So I just wanted to go ahead and talk about that. Just like with Wonder Woman, if you maybe were thinking about hopping off this book, do not hop off it because this is the last issue of this
Why would
storyline.
you even think about
I
that?
don't know. It's been my favorite book on the stands for 2 years now. So, and it's still good. So last issue of this story arc was super, super good. So there's our awesome Dan Mora A cover right there. Here is the Dave Wilkins cover featuring your Kingdom Come Batman and Superman. And then this is the 1 in 25 Asrar variant that we're selling for $15, featuring very Kingdom Come looking heroes. It was really good. Like I read it and I was like, "Holy God."
So next up for me, I actually meant to talk about this back when I was talking about Cobra Commander #2. I wanted to quickly talk
Oh, yeah.
about G.I. Joe Real American Hero issue 304. This is a really fun issue, of course, written by Larry Hama and art by Chris Mooneyham. And you read this one too,
Yep.
so we kind of talk about this every time we go over this book. Um, we didn't read the 300 issues leading up to 301. So we're still kind of learning what the current status quo of a lot of this G.I.
Yeah.
Joe is. But you get a lot of really fun stuff here. You got the follow up to what happened with Snake Eyes and Scarlet after that attack from the previous issue where they're in their cabin. And it did not look good. Did
Right.
not look good for them. There more is followed up on there. We also get more of Don Marino's.
Marina, yeah.
They catch. I feel like they caught some of the people up who didn't know her full story. This does a little bit more for that. She's got some really cool stuff. I didn't know, and it's not a spoiler because if you've read it previously, that her parents are Cobra
Yeah.
agents. But she has a fun. I feel like almost like a Spider-Man sneaking out of the house
Yeah.
moment that's really cool. Plus, we see what Cobra Commander is up to, and what we're slowly building is we've got Serpentor and his plans, where he's kind of zombified himself and all these people, and he's working with that other grub-looking guy about
The Revanche.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, about like cybernetically
Uh-huh.
enhancing them, and then we have GI Joe that's aware that Serpentor is spying on them, but they're kind of like, let's wait and see what happens as
Yeah.
we gather intel. But it seems like there may be a fourth uh, party that is entering that may shake everything up. So I'm really excited to see what these characters do because they see all of this going on. They go, oh, this could be a good opportunity for us to make a move.
Yeah, it does seem like I'm really interested to see how it all comes together because, like I said, we got the GI Joes, we've got Cobra Commander and his guys, we've got Serpentor and what he's doing, and then this other party that pops up in this, and it's like these four different factions, all
And they all
maybe.
have their very unique individual plans.
Yeah, and like, how are they all going to converge on each other? Like, it's really. I mean, it seems like sort of a hodgepodge right now, but I think it's all going to come to a head in a
Yeah.
big way at some point. So.
Yeah, so once again, the art is fantastic. You
Hmm.
get tons of
Yep.
characters. I forgot what some of them, but there was like, I do a lot of like when we get GI Joe toys in, I'll
Oh
either
yeah.
repair them or whatever, price them and everything. And I see so many, I'm like, oh yeah, that guy. Like there's even just Joes that are like unloading a truck, and they mention him. I was like, oh, those are some like cool deep cut
Yeah.
characters and stuff. So it continues to be really fun. I feel like this is for your you know not seasoned GI Joe fan, but you do have to know the basics to really enjoy this book. But
And something interesting they said in the letters page is they said they hinted that they are working on some reprints
yeah,
of some of the older G.I. Joe books, but they don't know what or when or anything like that. But hopefully they will reprint at least some of the bigger storylines that maybe feed
I
into
was gonna say,
this.
looking at these storylines that they're doing right now, if you can't reprint everything, try your best to tailor make
Yeah.
them to lead to everything we've got right now. So that
Yeah.
way, you can catch us up on, you know, 30 something
Yeah.
years of
Yeah.
storyline the best you can. But another really good issue, we've got a black and white Kubert cover. It's really cool. You've got Dawn facing off against some of the blue ninjas in here. I love the kind of like cybernetically enhanced uh, different Cobra people in this
Yeah.
because I don't know, it's a really cool idea. And we have this 1 in 10 Walker variant that we're selling for $15.
Yeah, I mean, the best thing I can think of for this series so far is I don't quite know where all this is. It's been 4 issues, and I still don't know where it's going, but I'm enjoying the ride.
Yeah.
And we'll see where we get. We'll see where we're going when we finally get there.
Yeah.
Let's see. Next for me is Spider Boy #4. We are big Spider Boy fans around here, and this issue was a really, really good
We
too.
have some bias around here. We like the Energon universe. We really like Spider Boy.
Yeah.
And we're big advocates of Superman.
Yeah.
If you need to know anything about us, it's those things are prevalent, but I feel like you will definitely know what we are for and not what we're against. And we're for all of this.
Yeah, for sure. So this is really fun. It's funny, like at the very beginning at the Feast Center, they're showing Fast
The
Car.
best part of the whole thing.
Yeah, they're showing Fast Car Family 5, and like a group showing. But Bailey says, "Well, that's no fun. Fast Car Family 10 is at the theater down the street right now." But Christina reminds them, "You have to have money to see that, and we don't have
The
money."
clips we get of it.
Yeah,
Too.
the clip's like, "Oh, Dirk, your car doesn't have enough fuel." He's like, "My car doesn't run on fuel; it runs on family."
He specifically said they're driving up the side of a pyramid. He's like,
Yeah.
you can't make the jump over the Sphinx.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can with family.
Yeah,
or something
it's
like that.
it's hilarious.
So good.
Yeah. So they decide to go bowling since Spider Boy has free bowling for life from when he saved the bowling alley a few issues ago. So they go bowling for a little bit. But he wants nachos, but of course he doesn't get free nachos, and he's all put out about that. So that's really fun.
It does feel very classic Peter Parker,
Yeah.
like Parker Luck, but the innocent version of that when he was young.
Yeah.
And it was like the weird little things he would run
Yeah,
into.
because the guy's like, "Okay, nachos, that'll be $8.50." He's like, I should get free nachos too. So that's really fun. But so later, he's like, I'm gonna clear my head. I'm gonna go out and patrol, see what Spider-Man's up to, and he runs into both Spider-Man, Peter and Miles, together fighting some like Vulture type guys, and he wants to join in.
The Volturions.
Yeah, the Vulturions. Yeah, but Peter says, no, these guys are out of your league. You're benched, right? And Peter's a little bit miffed with him because what we saw in the last issue with Spider Boy, how he can talk to spiders in the backup story when he teamed up with Thor, and Peter's like, yeah, Thor told me about that. You didn't tell me about all your powers. We're gonna have to have a talk about this to see if you can even continue on being Spider Boy. But then we see this boy-sized spider creature breaks into the bowling alley and eats a bunch of nachos. And then he actually goes to the movie theater where they're showing Fast Car Family 10 and starts terrorizing everybody in the theater. And everybody's like, well, Spider Boy, why is Spider Boy doing that? But it's not.
Because we know Spider Boy has his kind of monster form.
But then we see this boy spider creature actually attack Miles. But we know that Bailey is back at the Feast Center, so we know, okay, they're different. And so then they have to figure out sort of what to do. Bailey uses his spider sense, his like outward bound spider sense, to sort of figure out everything that's going on. And he has to maybe get in between Peter and Miles wanting to fight this other this monstrous boy spider character, and Bailey sort of has to get in the middle of them. And they aren't too happy with that. So more to come on this new boy spider character, which, right there. And then we learn the origin of this boy spider character in the backup story. So there's going to be more to come with this. Not really sure how it's all going to play out, but it was just another fun.
It's really fun. This feels like, I don't know. It's very jokey, but not in a offensive way.
It's not like a slapsticky kind of way. It's just there's just a lot of funny things that happen.
Yeah, it feels very classic. Spider-Man stuff. And
although this issue felt just the tiniest bit darker than the other ones because of this boy spider character, his connection to Spider Boy. Bailey feeling like he's being left out of the loop. He's a little bit more down in the dumps.
There's a little thing between him and Miles. I don't think he resents Miles.
Yeah.
But he understands that, like, there's Peter and Miles who are partners, and then there's him who he still says is a sidekick, but
Right.
even then gets benched. And so he kind of looks at Miles as like, I would really like to be in your position in this, that, may play into the future and the relationship between all of them.
Yeah, so just super fun. I loved it. I love every issue of Spider Boy so far. So we have our A cover right there, and then we have this variant by Baldari. That's really cool.
Okay, next up, I've got Superman issue number 11. This is a really good issue. All the issues of Superman so far have been great. Like last issue with the Old West and everything. This issue, I feel like for most of it runs kind of parallel with, because Superman is missing for a lot of this issue when he's in the Old West.
Yeah.
So
this is like, what were they doing while he was in the Old West? This is what everybody was doing back in Supercorps.
Yes. So you've got Dr. Farm and Mr. Graft, who have been kind of the villains of this whole thing, enacting kind of more of their nefarious scheme. You can see on there they've created the Lex Luthor Revenge Squad, because it kind of turns out they're more against Lex Luthor than they were Superman.
Yeah, and Superman's just in their way to get to Lex.
So Supercorps is being attacked. Superman's missing. All of that. But we do learn there's some characters there, like Lena Luthor is there, and
was it Letitia, his mom?
Yes, his mom is there, and we learn, for those of us who are maybe not super versed in who Lena Luthor is, they give you a pretty good rundown of where she first appeared, why she's got kind of those Brainiac scars on her head, all that, which was really nice. It was a really nice catch-up moment. But they kind of do the villain thing, Dr. Farm and Mr. Graft, of here's why we were doing all the things we were doing. And actually what I always felt were very, like, I thought the characters were interesting, but it seemed like they had a lot going on.
Yeah.
One day they're dealing with Bizarro. The next they've got a glove that has kryptonite in it.
Yeah, they do experiments on Parasite at one point, I think. Like
it's a lot of like, okay, you've got a lot of plans, but this actually ties them all together really well, where you go, oh, I now see the one thing you were actually trying to do. And it's really interesting. And it's a pretty decent plan. Now their outcome that they're planning for the end, I'm like, what's the purpose? Like, what's your end goal with?
Why are you doing this?
Why are you doing this? But what we're kind of learning is this does all kind of have to go back to Lex Luthor and that past that was hinted at when he was maybe the protector of Metropolis.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool. The art, is Baldion, I believe?
Yeah.
Baldion's art is really fun in this. Just highly recommended. A great issue of Superman. And we've got some variants for this as well. So we've got the Libramejo variant, him with Crypto. And we have, this is the Ariel Diaz sweater weather cover.
Don't know why you need a sweater when it's that hot.
I know. He can heat up the room.
Yeah. All right, so next for me is Nightwing number 111, and we just learned today or yesterday that Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo's run on Nightwing is coming to an end. I think with issue 114 is the last issue, so we're running out. So we're almost, it's sad to see them go, but looking forward.
It's been a long, good run.
Yeah, looking forward to see what they work on next. So in this one, it appears that Heartless has actually come to Gotham and killed somebody. But when Batman and Nightwing go to investigate, they determine that it's not the real Heartless, but rather a copycat, because it's just not, the cut's not clean. Like, there's just a few things that they can tell that it's not the real Heartless. But the victim that was killed, he left behind a young son, which hits very close to home with both Batman and Nightwing. So Nightwing talks to him,
so
and
they want to make another Robin.
No, it doesn't go in that direction. But it's cute because the little boy's like, Nightwing, you're on my lunchbox, and so Nightwing talks to him and sort of helps him through it a little bit. And then Nightwing tells Batman that something is wrong with him, that he's not able to jump. He's scared of heights, and we've seen that that's been hinted at over the last few issues, and more to come on that in the next few issues. I think that's like what this last hurrah of Tom Taylor's is what is wrong with Nightwing, and I do think that Heartless has something to do with it. So more to come on that. But yeah, just another good run of Nightwing. I think setting up the end of this epic run that we've had for the last couple of years. So there's our A cover right there. And then we have this really fun Valentine's variant by Serge Acuna. Will you be my Valentine? Oh, and he's giving it to Babs. That's so sweet. I love this one. Dan
That
Mora
one's awesome.
variant. Yep, this is the one I pre-ordered. I love that.
Don't tease me with that where it looks like Dick Grayson's Batman again.
Yeah, no.
Because
but
I would love that.
Batman and Nightwing are together throughout this
I
whole
love
issue.
that.
Yeah. We got this super steamy sweater weather variant from Nick Robles, melting all that snow with all that hotness. And then there's this really cool 1 in 25 pepper variant that we're selling for $20.
Nothing's hotter than Nightwing.
Yep.
Okay, next up, I've got Titans issue number 8. Speaking of Tom Taylor and Nightwing, I feel like this works really well if you're reading Nightwing. So in this, we're coming off of Beast World, and this is what I've really been interested in, is kind of what's the fallout of
The
Beast
aftermath,
World.
yeah.
Because, spoiler alert, Beast Boy is alive. Definitely a little worse for the wear, but he's there. But in this, it actually begins with Sergeant Steele, who I haven't kept up with Wonder Woman, but you said is a big player in.
He's in that big player in the current series, yeah.
And Wonder Woman, and Melinda Grayson Lynn from Nightwing, who is Nightwing's sister, are both on a news show discussing the Titans, and more specifically Beast Boy, and is he dangerous or not? And you've got Sergeant Steele, who is definitely like, one, the Titans took over all the weaponry.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want that to happen again? Also, Beast Boy, Melinda Grayson is like, they saved so many people. Amanda Waller was going to kill like 1 million people. And he's like, well, explain it to the people who had family members lost by like raging monsters type thing, beasts. And so, and all of this news coverage is being watched by Cyborg and Beast Boy. And it's really doing a number to Beast Boy. And Cyborg's like, I can change the channel. Like, it's fine. And Beast Boy's like, no, I need to see what I did. Because he wasn't really kind of conscious when he was Garo. But Nightwing comes in and he's like, you don't need to be watching that. By the way, there is a tropical storm heading towards Florida. I think they say Tampa. And we need to go there and rescue as many people as we can. Which I really like that they do very like, not just like supervillains, but like natural disasters.
Yeah.
They did that like forest fire, and they did, now they're doing this tropical storm. And what they learn is, one, they do have a new vehicle that's super cool that's introduced in this. But also, even when they're trying to save people and there's raging storms and everything, someone hits Beast Boy with a baseball bat and it's like, don't come near my family, you're a beast or whatever. And the rest of the Titans are like, hey, Beast Boy, you might need to like step back because, this public image is really, really bad. So that's kind of one of the storylines going on. The other is what's been going on with Raven, where actually Raven's dark side has taken over and is kind of piloting, but she's acting like normal Raven.
Yeah.
But this intrigues Trigon, her father, and he might have an offer or a gift for her that plays into her evil side that looks like this is actually part 1 of what that story is going to be. Really, really good issue of Titans. And so there is your A cover. The art is by Segovia in this, which I really
love
like.
his work, yeah.
So that is our A cover here. We also have, I believe this is, this is the Terso Cons variant. And then we also have this, Dan Mora sweater weather cover.
Don't need sweaters there.
Nope. And I love Beast Boy as a little pink one.
Yeah. All right, so next for me is Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong number 5. I believe there's 2 more issues left after this one, and things are ramping up, and we still have little different pockets of characters doing different things. So we have things like Godzilla battling a kraken under the ocean with the fate of Atlantis hanging in the balance, and a lot of the heroes are down there trying to deal with that. We've got Grodd and his gorilla army confront Kong with Supergirl's help on Skull Island there. Green Arrow has a little run-in with the League of Assassins, or the League of Shadows. I always get those mixed up. Shazam takes on the entire Legion of Doom all at once, all alone. Lex Luthor's working on something very interesting. You'll see that at the end, which is really cool. And there's another character who pops up, and they are also doing something very interesting on the very last page. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, I wonder what. Like, that's an interesting use of that to do that. So just a whole bunch of different, and of course Superman is is comatose throughout this whole thing. So you just have all these different little groups of characters dealing with monster kaiju from the MonsterVerse into the DC universe. So it's really fun, just a fun comic book, you know. So we have our A cover right here. We got a couple of variants. We've got this Jock. I should recognize that Jock cover right there. And then there's this 1 in 25 Pepper variant that we're selling for $50. Batman and Wonder Woman staring down Godzilla. Super fun.
Next up for me, we have X-Force number 49. I love this cover, this homage to Giant Size, but this time with the classic duo of Beast and Wonder Man. And this is the storyline I've been most interested in is they call him Beast Prime, but the beast that over time has gone pretty evil in the name of protecting mutants, but has done horrible things. And this new beast that was a clone, but had the memories and stuff of Beast from like the 80s when he was on the Defenders uploaded in him. So he's your classic, a little bit goofy Beast. But in this one, we saw in the last issue that this new Beast, this kind of classic Beast, broke out of his prison cell in the X Force headquarters. And so immediately Wolverine and everyone there is like, oh, we knew it. He's also bad. But they do have a discussion about like, you know, I think Wolverine says like, you know, that other beast is just crouching inside of him. And then someone says to Wolverine, well, Weapon X and all of that is inside of you and you suppress it or whatever.
Take that, Wolverine.
Yeah. But so they're like, oh no, and they kind of track him a little bit. They're like, he's heading towards the other beast, who Beast Prime is actually going and building a big weapon underwater. And so they're like, oh no, they're going to, two beasts now working on this is going to get done even faster. But when we catch up to the classic beast, um, he's breaking into a house of Wonder Man. And there's a lot that's happened in Wonder Man's life since he last met him. Wonder Man is like, oh my gosh, like, you've gone crazy, and I'm a pacifist now. But the classic duo kind of reunites pretty fast and they team up now to go and stop the Beast Prime. So I'm looking forward to the next thing when, Wonder Man does say something about like, I can punch things when I need to.
Yeah.
And so it looks like they're going to be teaming up. But really fun issue of X-Force. I'm excited to see where this ends up because we know a lot of the X titles are ending coming up very soon. What's the status of this more classic beast going to be? All of that. So that is our A cover, and I don't have any of the variants right now for this one.
Well, as for me, is Batman number 144. This is the final part of the Joker Year One storyline. It's been running weekly for the last 3 weeks, so it's just a three-part story, and it's over this in this issue. There's not a whole lot I can say about it without spoiling the entire story, and so much of it is wrapped up in in the story they've been telling. So I just wanted to more or less just let you know that it's out in case you've been reading it. Don't miss this. But it also does end the Joker Year One story, which takes place in Joker's first year of being the Joker. But there's also been a story throughout these 3 issues set in the future with an older Bruce and an older Selina, where Joker has released this like Joker toxin across the city. And that story gets wrapped up in this as well. So kind of like 2 different stories are getting wrapped up all in this issue, making way for the I don't remember the name of the next story arc that's coming in the next issue, but just wanted to call it out, just let you know that it all wraps up. The Joker Year One wraps up right here, and I think the next issue comes out in like 2 weeks, and then after that it goes back to monthly. So there's our A cover right there. We have this Yasmin Putri variant. Looks very cool. And then we have this Raza variant as well.
And the last main one for me is Rise of the Powers of 10, number 2. And let me just say, this is one of the books, sometimes we say we're not smart enough for this. This is a little bit how this one is. So the X books have become so, built on each other for so long during this Krakoa era. There's a lot of characters, a lot of storylines I missed. So a lot of this is a little bit of like, I don't quite remember who you are or what your power is or what your status is in this. We have the Fall of the House of X, which is the book that kind of takes place in like currently. And this one, in the last issue, jump forward years in the future. This one doesn't necessarily do this, but this deals more with Xavier and his team trying to find Myra and figure out, is there a time period in her past where we could basically get rid of her and prevent everything from happening. Meanwhile, Myra has her own ways of tracking Professor X, and he has disappeared from her radar. We know where he is, but she seems like she's pretty close to finding it. So I'm not sure everything that's going to happen. You do have some fun appearances by, you got the characters from Dead X-Men that appear in this. Hope Summers is in this, which she hasn't been in much in a long time. But this is a good issue. The art is good and everything, but this is definitely, the we're getting to the finale part of the Krakoan era. And that's definitely with this one too, that's pretty difficult if you haven't been reading everything. But try it out if you've been enjoying it. That is our A cover. We also have this beautiful David Matt cover with Storm. And we have this Kamen connecting variant. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is I didn't get a chance to read it, but we do have the big Spawn issue 350 that is out this week, where you finally find out who will be sitting on the throne of hell. It is in this issue, it doesn't leave it ambiguous. You see who it is. This is not necessarily a jumping on point. This is wrapping up kind of a storyline that's been going for a very long time.
I think the next issue might be, but not this one.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but we wanted to mention it because this is a landmark issue. It's an oversized issue. You've got multiple artists on this. It looks really good. I skimmed through it. It'll be interesting to see where it goes after this. So you've got your A cover there. Let's see. You've got your Brett Booth cover as well. You've got your Glathion variant here. Then we have a black and white version of a McFarlane cover, and we have the McFarlane cover. So big issue there. Record-breaking 350th issue. So don't miss that if you're a Spawn fan.
Yep.
And then that is it. We had a lot of books to talk about this week, a lot of big books, but we got through them. Hopefully you learned a little bit along the way and you're better prepared when you head into your comic book store or you go online to order. You know a bit better what you will be getting.
And if you got through all these with us, drop us let's do a spider again.
Yeah,
since,
do a
Ultimate
spider.
Spider-Man number 2 or a web or something like that.
Yeah. Do that so we know that you stuck with us through the whole thing.
Because there will be a test.
There will be a test. You just don't know it yet. And yeah, head over to infinityflux.net right now where you can order these books while supplies last. And stay tuned for our show coming up on Wednesday.
Yep.
We'll be going over the comics you can pre-order by the weekend so you don't miss out on any of those. And you can pre-order them, all that good stuff. But until next time,
See ya.
See ya.